Titans, Titans, Titans. There are 6 days left until Edge of Fate, and today is your day. We're going to talk about Titan exotic armor, and I want to touch on, just in case people have been commenting, about the placement of some of these things on the list. And I just want to be clear here that these top 10s are not ranked in specific order. They're not like, this is 10th place and this is first place being the best or the worst. This is just the top 10, and I'm not ranking them more than that because they are too complicated, I think, to box in like that compared to the weapons. The honorable mentions are basically me getting to put 3 more things into this top 10. I didn't want to call it a top 13 or something. Top 10 is just a lot easier. But these honorable mentions are things that I think are consistent meta staples. So for the Warlock build, for example, Getaway Artist I think is an amazing exotic. It is very good at what it does. I just think it didn't get the top 10 because there are higher peaks with other things. Now, it is great. It is very consistent, and you can make some great builds with it. I make builds with it on Arc that I don't think most of you have played. So I really enjoy Getaway Artist. I do. And that goes for every honorable mention that's been on these lists. So just to cover our bases today for Titan, these are all going to be amazing exotics, all 13. We are doing top 10. There are going to be 3 honorable mentions. The placement is not super significant for these. It is not a power ranking for these 13 items. This is geared towards Legend Plus. We're talking GMs, contest, master, raids, dungeons, nightfalls. I do have to kind of more quickly get this video out. I have to travel for work tomorrow for a lot of time, so it's going to take most of my day that I usually use to edit, do thumbnails and things. So hopefully I don't skip out too much information here. You guys have been great about commenting things that I've overlooked or missed in some of the changes that have happened recently. So keep doing that. If I misrepresent something, please, let us know down below. So our first honorable mention is going to be Beyond Light's Precious Scars. This is a former PvP exotic that has moved into the PvE zone after a couple of buffs and a couple of reworks. It is now one of the de facto support Titan exotics. Now, what does Precious Scars do? Precious Scars, on getting a kill with a weapon that matches your super element, will trigger restoration for you and nearby allies. That's the main effect and main reason that people are using it. This is solar restoration, so if you're on solar, you can get a kill to proc this and then use Empyrean to continue it. But realistically, this is much more powerful on other subclasses that don't normally get healing. So it used to be that a lot of Arc and Strand might use this in some endgame content when they didn't need the damage bonus of some other exotics, but did need some healing to factor in to stay alive in hard scenarios. There is an additional bonus here where when you revive somebody, you also get overshields, but that's not super relevant most of the time. It does make your reses safer. So as a team play exotic, if you guys are in something that's just kicking your butts, this is a great way to stay alive. Our next honorable mention is going to be Pyro Gale Gauntlets. These serve a very specific niche by giving Solar and Burning Maul a one-off super. This has come in handy in a couple of times where you've been in this scenario where you're doing a raid where it is too dangerous to play some other subclass. Specifically, this was more before Banner of War really popped off. Now it's contentious between Banner of War and Sunspots. But I think any Titan player will agree that Sunspots are really great. They keep you alive very often. So being able to build into that and have Sunspots consistently is always a plus in endgame content. So if you're in a situation where it's very difficult to stay alive, maybe you're not able to get as many kills to keep Banner of War going, Pyro Gale serves the purpose of letting you use Solar, your Sunspots, your Hammers, all of that jazz, as well as building into a one-off super for you to throw out in a damage phase. Now, we did use Pyro Gale quite a bit in Crota because once you slammed, the tornadoes would continue to stun him for a couple of seconds, and that would buy your team some time to do damage without getting slammed. And in contest, he was killing wells, he was killing people in wells, so came very much in handy for that situation. Now, going forward, is it always the best thing in the game? Probably not, but I do think it is very, very pivotal in building certain solar builds to just have the option to convert Burning Maul into a one-off super. Otherwise, your 2 options are just roaming supers. As well as that, this does let you build into Consecration a little bit more. It is a fun little touch-up to Consecration, but it is not as good as the melee damage buffs we have. But going into Edge of Fate, where they're removing the ignition damage bonus for Consecration and for your melee damage boost to boost your ignition damage, I'm thinking that the Cyclone might become the best way to boost your Consecration damage going into the future, because it will give you some extra Scorch, and it will be extra damage, doesn't rely on a melee damage bonus. And our final honorable mention is going to be Abeyant Leaps. Now, these are for Strand Titan. They work with Drenger's Lash, And their main effect is when you send out your barricade, it will send out 3 waves instead of 1 wave that will track enemies and suspend them. They will go a little bit further, and whenever you suspend the target, you will gain woven mail. The main benefit on Strand for using this is that killing suspended targets can give you class ability back with one of your fragments. And going into Edge of Fate, we're going to see a 1-second extension on Suspend's timer. So this is going to kind of be up in the air if this is going to get even better. But Suspend has always been a powerful debuff and something that's kind of worth building into. On Prismatic, you can also use this and gain advantage of the Woven Mail, but you do have the option of using the exotic class item instead, which lets you compete with, Synthoseps or something else. So hard to pick there, but on Strand, for Strand itself, or for consistently spamming Suspend builds, Abandoned Leaps are very good still to this day. Now, my first top 10 exotic is going to be something I think most of you are going to think are niche, and you're going to think I'm crazy for putting this up here, but this is Mask of the Quiet One. Mask of the Quiet One was recently buffed, so getting a kill while your shields are broken, or getting Void multi-rapid kills with a Void super equipped will proc Devour. Now, I don't think you have to be a Warlock main to understand how powerful Devour is. Now, mainly on Void, you will have the Echo of Starvation already equipped, and you don't really need this to proc Devour. It is a good safety net, but it also lets you just not run the Fragment at all and still get Devour. I think what makes Mask of the Quiet One really powerful is that you can use it on Prismatic. Most people are not running Mask of the Quiet One on Prismatic. We're running class items and Consecration right now. But going into the expansion, being able to give yourself Devour, have the axes for both damage and weakening, and for, killing some ads because you can go around and slap things with it, as well as having Devour to heal you and get your grenade back, is going to be a powerful alternative to melee builds if you are just not feeling Consecration at that point or want to try something different. Mask of the Quiet One is an amazing source for Devour, and Devour is one of the best buffs in the game, so de facto it gets to go very high on my list. Now, you do have an additional bonus here where when you take damage, you get a little bit of all your ability energy. It's about 5% per hit per second. With the Devour healing on top of that, it's much more safe than it used to be to just take hits to get the energy. So it'll always top off all your abilities, but really you're looking to use this for Devour, for healing, and for grenade builds. Now, this pick might be more in line with regular Titan thinking, but we're talking Doomfang Puldrons. Doomfang Puldrons, if you are not a Titan player, are one of the most fun exotics in the game. This will probably be the longest you can spend your time in a super, because this thing gives you 20% of your super for every melee kill with a Void melee. That melee kill will also give you 4x Void surges, and when you pop your super, hitting your shield throws will allow you to extend your super duration. Even if you just stand around and throw your shield, if you're hitting a couple of enemies with each shield throw, you can pretty much make your Sentinel Shield last forever. Now, Sentinel Shield's not the greatest super in the game. There are better roaming supers, Golden Gun for one, or Behemoth usually, but it is still a very powerful option for you to extend. You can keep yourself alive for basically ever. It's great for getting reses off, and if you are blocking, it's great for orb generation, as well as it is a 40% damage buff to your teammates if they shoot through your block. So if you are blocking for a bit, throwing your shield, blocking for a bit, it can still be a very strong support option. One of the reasons I want to put this into the top 10 right now is that going into Edge of Fate, with all the melee changes, getting more melee damage, more melee cooldown, Doomfangs will be even easier to keep up. And then with the super changes, you will get 45% more damage on your Sentinel Shield, as well as a much faster cooldown on this weapon's refunds. It should be coming in about 30% super energy per melee kill. As an extra note, if you are playing Void, you can use this with the other supers, you can use this with Twilight Arsenal, you can use this with Ward of Dawn, so you can use this to spam most Void supers. I would really recommend Monte Carlo or a Pugilist weapon if you are trying to consistently spam melee options. Even if you're just finishing a target with regular cooldowns with the melee on this to get the extra super energy, it can add up very quickly, especially in like a Nightfall or something. If there was ever going to be an exotic on these lists that I would say is actually the top of its respective list, it would probably be Synthos. Synthoseps are one of the most simple but also most efficient exotics in the entire game. When there are at least 3 enemies near you, Synthoseps gives you 165% bonus melee damage and 50% more super damage. You also get some reload and handling buffs, but that's new and we don't really use it for that. That's just tacked on added benefits at this point. And this exotic is the main reason that Titans have been a melee class for the entire time. Like, obviously they've gotten really good melees on every class. They're really committed to melee aspects and things like that. But Synthoseps being like the premier exotic for your class has kind of pigeonholed you into this certain loadout, and it's got merit. You put Synthos on and you do Consecration Slam, and you're two-shotting mini bosses and dungeons, I don't know how to quantify raw power in the case of a lot of exotics, because there are things like cooldowns to think of and synergies, but Synthoceps really just lets you mash the melee button, and even if it's an unpowered melee, most of the Titan subclasses have some way of buffing unpowered melee damage on top of Synthoceps, which has just made every Titan melee build broken without even thinking about your cooldowns. Going into Edge of Fate with the melee changes, Synthoceps is getting nerfed because it's no longer going to stack multiplicatively, and it is not getting increased like the other exotics. So I think there is a space in the upcoming expansion for Wormgods to get ahead, or class-specific things to get ahead, more like Wishful Ignorance. But for now, the assumption is going to be, if you are not fully investing like multiple things into your melee damage, Synthoceps is going to be the go-to for a simple 165% bonus melee damage. It's not getting nerfed on its own. Like if you're just running this and then running regular grenade builds or just gun builds, you are still going to have Syntho melee. Synthoceps lets Titan play melee build on any class with any setup, and it will feel good. And I think that gives it its top 10 place. I don't think anybody's going to complain about Synthos being a top 10 Titan exotic. That's like the entire class. Now, directly after Synthos, we do have its main competition, which is Wormgod Curus. Wormgod, going into the expansion, is going to get a damage boost on its higher stacks up to, I think it's 400%. Now, the way Wormgods work is every melee kill that you get builds up a meter. The meter drains over time, with higher stacks draining faster. The higher you stack it, the more melee damage you get, and the more gun damage you get. I don't know if you know, Wormgods buffs gun damage as well after you get to 2 stacks. Once you get full stacks, you got about 30 seconds before the whole thing wears off. But the higher stacks are about going to be 400, down to like 165 is about 2 stacks just. Might be about 200% going into the expansion, depending on how they change each level. Right now, 2 stacks is about 150%. So you do have to work a little bit to even match Synthoceps, which is why Synthos is typically the choice over Wormgods. There's no upkeep on Synthos, there is on this. However, with the changes to melee damage and the melee stacking, I think this is going to slightly pull ahead, as the melee damage cap is much higher than it is compared to Synthos now, as well as the weapon damage I think is going to be more appreciated with the weapon stat and the new way the stats work. We are going to see a bit more weapon melee synergy and a bit less of just spam the melee. All right, for anybody who's watched As to Cross, you know what this one is. This is Stronghold. I don't think this is a hard pick. It's a weird one, okay? Stronghold is on here because it does one thing extremely well. It's not going to speedrun you the game, but if you have Strongholds equipped, you'll never die, so it will win you the game eventually. Strongholds makes it so that when you block with swords, you don't consume guard energy. As well, while you are blocking, you'll build up stacks, and when you deal damage based on the number of stacks that you have, you will get cured and restoration. And then you can go back to blocking again with your infinite guard block. You also take even more damage while blocking than normal. So Stronghold allows you to basically stand there and hold block in front of some enemies and take their attention, and that's it. You'll never die. They can't kill you, especially if there's like a warlock healing you or a teammate with healing auto. Like you couldn't die if you wanted to, as long as you're holding block. With the new Strand wave frame from Season of Heresy, Abyssal Edge, you can get flash counter on that, and the new flash counter is whenever you take damage, it will deal damage back, and it has like a short 1 second cooldown or so. But that's just free damage it'll tack on. So I mean, look for a flash counter sword and put Strongholds on, and you can run any content in the game. You'll want a teammate probably. I don't know if you want a solo with Stronghold unless it's a specific encounter. There are specific encounters where I'm sure soloing a Stronghold is pretty easy. But for certain like raid bosses or raid scenarios or GMs, you might want to be the Stronghold Titan and block, and then just have somebody shoot you with a healing auto every now and then they can just dump heavy into everything because they're not going to be getting shot. While this might not have like the lethality of Wormgods or Synthos, this is without a doubt one of the best anti-wipe exotics in the game. You'll practically never be at risk, and that makes this a powerful option. Part of the most light is the Forsaken exotic. This is at some point was like the Titan mainstay. Around when the Witch Queen came out, we're getting into 3.0s, Hoyle started to make the rounds. And the main perk of Hoyle is when you use an ability, your other 2 abilities get faster cooldowns and a little bit more damage. We're talking like 20 to 40% more damage for each ability. And we're talking 400 to 800% extra cooldown speed. If you are unaware, you could use two abilities, say for example your melee and then your barricade, and that would double charge your grenade, so it's getting the higher stack of damage and the higher stack of cooldown time. So this lets you really efficiently cycle abilities almost without downtime. After it was nerfed, it came down to 5 seconds over the duration, so you're still looking at about half per use. So you have to time it a little bit better if you want to maintain a near 100% uptime on your abilities. However, going into Edge of Fate with the ability changes, you're going to get 50% more energy than you do now. So instead of doing 400, 800, we're going to be doing 600, 1200. And that might make Part of Most Light way more powerful than it is even right now. Right now, it's pretty consistent just for letting you do Infinite Storm's Keep, and just for as a general gameplay exotic. Like, we are using this with Synthos on Consecration just to make sure you always have an ability up. It gives you a very powerful option for maintaining something in your toolkit. On other classes or at other times, it is very likely that you might, use your class ability in melee, and then you're going to use your grenade and you're not going to have anything. Hoyle minimizes the amount of time that's happening, and if you are doing something like making your subclass work to stun champions in a GM, Hoyle will make sure that you pretty much always have a cooldown off to do that stun. Moving to Beyond Light, we have another classic Titan one, Curus of the Falling Star. This is the T-Crash exotic. This makes your T-Crash do double damage, basically. It will probably save you from a boss stomp, but you're not using it for that. You're using it for the double damage. In addition, one of the recent changes to it is that while you are amplified, getting a melee kill gives you super energy. So it's like an extra hands-on on top of your hands-on. It will take out champions and GMs. It is the best Titan option for raid boss DPS outside of certain scenarios where it's too far away, you'll miss the well for too long or something like that. So it is the go-to damage exotic, akin to Nighthawk for hunters. To follow up Curus, we have Icefall Mantle, which is our stasis representative on this list. Icefall Mantle recently got reworked. It used to be you would pop this and get an overshield and you'd be really slow, and it kind of sucked outside of like PvP or very specific builds because it also disabled your jump and your sprint and everything else. After the rework, it now makes it so that when you use your class ability, you release like an Aegir's Blast around you that slows and freezes enemies, and it will give you maximum stacks of Frost Armor, whether that is 5 or 8, depending on your fragments on stasis. And then based on the amount of stacks that you get, you will get healing for every stack of Frost Armor you would gain. So when you're picking up stasis shards with the Glacial Harvest aspect, that will let you heal. On top of the healing they already give, which is pretty inconsequential, this is about 10 per shard, or per stack of armor. So if you have ways to stack more armor, like Rhyme Stealer, that will also heal you. And getting rapid kills with stasis weapons will also give you Frost Armor. So this enables a very aggressive Stasis Titan build. With Hoarfrost, we used to have to play very defensively because you're using the barricade to freeze things, you're making crystals very close to you. It's much harder to run into a group of enemies and get that barricade down to attribute to your damage. Icefall lets you fly in with your melee, pop this to freeze everything near you. Shattering the frozen targets will make stasis shards. Because of the way the stasis thing got reworked, you now get those on shatters as well as breaking crystals, which will heal you, give you more frost armor, and give you your melee back so you can melee back out, or you can just keep punching them and the shatter will probably kill most enemies. This is a simultaneously offensive and defensive exotic, and for that purpose, I think it is great when stasis is going to be in the artifact again. Going into the Edge of Fate with the stasis nerfs, it's not necessarily getting any worse. It's going to be less flexible in your anti-champion options, but we are going to have stasis on the artifact, so I think it's very apt for you to pay attention to this exotic going into that artifact. Hoarfrost is good, Icefall is much more flexible. Here's one that's pretty much only viable in endgame content, Paragin Greaves. This is one of the weirdest changes I think an exotic ever got. Originally, Paragin would make it so when you use shoulder charge and you're in the air, you would get a ton of extra bonus damage. It still does that on any target. However, on specific targets, we're talking mini bosses, champions, and tormentors, as well as subjugators that count for this, you will get like 10,000% bonus damage. I think it's actually 1,000%. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 1,000% bonus damage and a full refund of your shoulder charge. In a lot of cases, if you have any other damage boost on top of that, this will one-shot a champion, even 40 light under. If you're not using it on champions, you're going to have to build a little bit more into that melee regen. I mean, Monte Carlo is good for that. Or if you're just running a specific class that has bonus multipliers to your cooldowns, for example, Sunspots can make up that difference for using this for ad clear as well. But really, if you're running Peregrine, you want to use it in specific situations where you know there's going to be champions, mini bosses, tormentors that you can go ahead and hit with this, that you'll get the cooldown back and you can just keep chaining it. Finally, the last one I'm going to put in this list is Hazardous Propulsion. So with Hazardous Propulsion, you want to be getting weapon headshots or weapon kills to charge it up. You can charge up to 6 rockets. When you activate your class ability, either Barricade or Thruster, you will launch those missiles. And for every missile that hits a target, you will get bonus damage to rockets. In this situation, rockets include rocket launchers and rocket sidearms, as well as things with like micro tracer rockets like Quicksilver or the Neomuna weapons, and some other like niche cases. But for the most part, I want you to think about this with heavy rockets, rocket sidearms, and in the expansion, rocket pulses should also benefit from this. This damage boost is up to 35%, which is nothing to scoff at. And if you're running something with the rocket pulse in the expansion, Hazardous Propulsion seems like a really great way to just boost that damage. It has a very good ammo economy, it looks like. So leaning into that is not a bad idea. And if you're still using rocket sidearms or rocket sidearms and rockets, right, you can do both because one's a special, one's a heavy. You can just generally enjoy a 35% damage boost most of the time. And I'd recommend taking something that you can consistently like get headshots with, but the missiles themselves also do really strong damage. Anybody who has played with Hazardous Propulsion, I think you understand that this is a very strong piece that you can use on any build, and it will continue to be a very strong piece to run on any build. Alright, well, I hope that was a faster video than normal. It might not be. That's totally possible. I kind of rant. We'll see in editing, I guess. Titans, let me know what you're thinking. If you are using some of these for your builds, what are you building it with? Like Hazardous Propulsion, what are you running? Storm's Keep? Running this on Prismatic? You're doing Solar? But if you are running a fun build, go ahead and let us know down below. If there's something that like you're running all the time through GMs and it's really contributing to your clears, go ahead and let us know down below as well. Tomorrow, I want to go ahead and talk about subclasses. And we're going to talk about all of the subclasses. So we're probably going to do a ranking of every subclass in the game, all classes, just straight tier list kind of vibe. So you can look forward to that, I guess. And then as soon as we finish the subclass video, we're going to go ahead and work on the builds for the expansion, leading us up into launch day. If you want to keep up with this stuff and you aren't already, go ahead and subscribe just to keep up. And I am trying to push to the 1,000 subs before Edge of Fate, so if we can hit that in a week, it'd be pretty awesome. I can't wait to watch what you one-shot next, Titans, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon.